Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. Hope you're all doing well. Artie is in Los Angeles, and of course, it wouldn't be Artie if there weren't some snags in the world. Um, I don't know if Artie will be joining us tonight. He asked me to fill in, and so we'll see how everything goes. But Artie is alive in LA, but he had some issues with his baggage and apparently he had some trouble getting to his hotel for one reason or another. So just want to say hi to everybody. We have, excuse me, got a frog in the throat today. We've got model train aficionado Chris. Sarah's Attic of Treasures was here and said hello. Hi there. John, I forget how you say your last name. Knopfel is how we'd say it in German, but hopefully. Peyton Rail Fan, hello. Delmarva Rail Fan, greetings. JD Grandpa Rails, hope you're well. Almar, hello. We have Stormy Sky Productions, welcome in. Tammy and Ray, Mom and Son Rail Fans are here. And I think that's everybody I see on my list right now. More will come in as we go along. Train Man is here. Russ Rockin' O Railroad, nice to have you here. Usually I am just Artie's sidekick and attempt at comedic relief. So the very rare occasions when he's not here to host, I feel like I need to be more serious. I have been actually for the first time in a long time doing some work on my layout. And so the big thing is I've been working on a hybrid between the Fowler car system and the new Wiesmann car motion system. I've been trying to combine there. Jean Ricard, how are you? Now, if anybody here is not really familiar with the Fowler car system, the Fowler car system starts with a piece of wire. Very thin wire there, kind of hard to see. I'll take the background off here. Let's see where we at. Settings. And let's go to virtual background. None. Okay. So yeah, you get a loop of wire. And then your vehicle will follow this wire. And the vehicle, somewhere I've got one here. This is a Fowler car. So if you look, Fowler car has a little ski on the bottom of it or a shoe, little pickup shoe. And there's a magnet. I think you guys can, ladies and gentlemen, can see that magnet there. There's a little magnet on the shoe. The magnet adheres to the wire. So wherever you lay the wire, the car has a little motor in it. And hopefully you can see the wheels going. It runs quietly, so that's kind of nice. And it will follow wherever you put that wire. And I did have that set up on my layout at one time. So, but Fowler also offers you track bed. So you can embed the wiring in these track lines. And then if you use some sort of leveling compound or whatever putty or whatever you want to use, and build your grade level up to the road, this makes it easier and you can design your roads this way and you just embed the wire. But what makes Fowler car special is that you can then, on certain places, for example, here's a straight track that has a little bit here. You can buy different types of motors. And the motors come with a little manhole cover that fits over this hole. And it offers splits. So you can see how this goes straight or it can veer off to the left there. And so you can run different wires in different directions. And if you activate the motor, it will cause the car to change lanes or turn, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there are different types of motors. There are stop motors, or I'm sorry, there are change motors, branch off junction motors, as they call them. And there are stop motors. And when you activate a stop motor, it causes the car to stop. And what happens is those all wire into a basic box like this that you power. And then if you look here, there's a little bit that shows you, okay, let's turn it right side up. Now it's in German, so it says Zeit, Z-E-I-T. Zeit means time. So you can adjust in here how long the car will stop. Will it stop for 30 seconds? Will it stop for 5 minutes? These smaller ones, I think these only go up to 45 seconds is the longest you can have them stop. They have fancier ones that can go up to 5 minutes for parking places and such. Anyhow, I had that installed on my layout, and I then bought one of their really fancy decoder's not the right word, but circuit boards, so that I could automate everything through my control system. And everything went to hell. And for 3 years, I've been trying to get it to work again. Now, the thing is, I have a bus stop on my layout, and I had it where through manual control, my buses would pull in to the bus area, go to one of the bus stops, stop, wait for a couple of minutes, and then pull out. And I had that working for a few days. And then I decided, well, let's upgrade this and make it all automated through my control system. And that was 3.5 years ago. And everything messed up. Now, the way the stop system works, and I'm trying to see, I've moved so many things around because I'm working on it. But the stop system works. There are little holes here on the track here. And on these holes, depending on what you're trying to get the cars to do, you put what's called a reed sensor, R-E-E-D, not R-E-A-D reed, but R-E-E-D reed sensor. And then the cars that you want to turn off or stop will have a little magnet on them. You put a little magnet. And when the car is riding the rail, and it passes wherever that reed sensor is, the reed sensor plugs into this. And instead of you having to turn the power on, the reed sensor reads the magnet. The magnet turns the reed sensor on. The reed sensor activates the motor activates, and boom, it will activate that motor, and your car will turn off or stop or whatever you want it to do. And that's how you get to do bus stops and that. And like I said, for the third time, I had that working until I decided to make it where rather than just have the cars running loose, you could control it. You could activate the motors and everything from your control system, my Central Station 3 or whatever. And it was insane. Hey, Sarah, good to see you again. Dave from Crooked River, nice to have you. So anyhow, I have tried multiple times ever since I did that, and I bought new motors, and I could never get it to work properly again. I bought new motors, new reed sensors, and I even contacted Fowler, and when they said, well, show us what you had, they said, oh, well, see, that's your problem. You can't have reed sensors here, and you can't have reed sensors there. And I'm like, but it was working. Until I added your stupid decoder. Now nothing works properly. And now I'm trying to run basics. So anyhow, I've gone literally 3 years where I haven't, well, I worked on it a bit last year. Well, Wiesmann, another German company, Wiesmann has their own automation system. And the nice thing about the Wiesmann automated system is that instead of a thin wire that's very, wires have tensile memory and trying to embed them, they make magnetic tape. Self-adhesive magnetic tape. And again, the cars will have a ski and they will adhere to the tape. And as your car goes along, it will follow the tape. But the tape is flexible, more flexible than the wire. So instead of having to use the bedded road here, you can really customize how you want to lay this. Now, technically, you could customize the wire too. But the wire is a little trickier, and a lot of people will lay some sort of, self-leveling compound, whatever, and they'll try to embed the wiring in the compound right at surface level, and then you paint over it, you put road tape over it, whatever. and you can do the same thing. But the Wiesmann system uses a series of magnets that you can remote control your cars. The read sensors are pre-built into the cars, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't like how expensive the Wiesmann system is. I'm struggling with trying to get the Fowler system to work. So I'm doing a combination. I'm trying to do a hybrid where I'm using the magnetic tape. I'm using the motors from this and the read sensors, and I'm going to see if I can get it working. But I just embedded everything. I don't think I could. I can try to change camera, but I forget which camera is which in my system to to show you which one it is, and try to give you that view. If I could try to change all the different cameras. I just forget which camera. Which one is that up there? Is it this one? Nope, it's not that one, but I can use that one. So here I'll show you where I have, there's my bus station. And I've got the shake hands. So here is my bus station. And you can see I have embedded the magnetic tape already and created both the road to run around. Now, obviously, everything's in a stage here, but I've got the system embedded. So what will happen is, and let me change back to my other camera before I make everybody sick with my hands, because it's so much fun to work with hands that are always shaking. It's not a lot of fun. Let's see who else just came in. Hey, Kiwi Dave. Well, that's what I'm going to talk about next, Russ, and explain to you. So anyhow, what happens is the cars without the magnets on them, because notice there's no magnet on the car itself. There's a magnet on this, but there's no read sensor magnet, which would be placed here. Anyhow, so when you activate, when you put the read sensors in the motors, the car will pass the read sensors. Only cars with magnets will activate the read sensors. And so the traffic will circle around the bus station and some of the buildings and that are in there. And the buses will activate the read sensors, and the buses will pull into the bus station, and they will stop at the stops while the rest of the traffic just keeps running the traffic circuit. So it will look realistic that way if I can just get the read sensors and everything to work with the Wiesmann tape. Okay, so now there are now 3 car automation systems out there. There is the Fowler car system, which I explained, which is the wire and the road track. There is the Wiesmann system, which actually has magnets you put in place to activate, and they allow you to have remote controls where you can move the car automatically by hand. They also have sensors in them so that the cars won't run into each other. One car has a sensor in it. If anybody knows Graham Folston from Lakeside, a UK channel. So the cars will not crash into each other. With Fowler cars, you know, if you have crossroads, the cars could crash into each other because they don't read each other. So there's Fowler car, there's Wiesmann, but Wiesmann is much more expensive. They're double the price of Fowler cars. And then there's MagnaRail. And MagnaRail is a totally different system. Fowler and Wiesmann are kind of the same system, just little differences in how it works. With Fowler car and Wiesmann, you can only use Fowler or Wiesmann cars. Wiesmann cars will work on Fowler, and Fowler cars will work on Wiesmann. But it has to be their cars. MagnaRail, you can use any scale car. MagnaRail does N scale. MagnaRail does can be used in O scale. Now, MagnaRail is a chain-driven, like a bicycle chain flipped on its side, through a bunch of gears. And then there's a magnet underneath. So you set the, you put the thing down and you build your layout up to the level of the chain, however you want to do it. And then you just put magnets, however far apart you want the cars, and then you'll put whatever cover, a thin piece of cardboard or a super thin card stock or something over it. And then in Magna Rail, you just take the special ski magnet and you attach it very easily to any car. So you can get a car as small as this. And if you can fit the little pin slip in here, and so that the slide, any car will run on Magna Rail. The negative part of Magna Rail, because Magna Rail becomes static, the cars just go in whatever little course but they can't stop. You can't do turnouts. You can't do bus stops. You can't do traffic patterns. Where with Fowler Car and Wiesmann, you can have stoplights and intersections and full traffic flow. With Magna Rail, you can't. So Magna Rail, the advantage, you can use any car. Magna Rail disadvantage, you can't do anything tricky with it. Wiesmann, most expensive, but you can do some of the most intricate stuff with it. Fowler, expensive, and you can do all the cool little traffic flow patterns. But again, you have to spend, because like each of these motors is about $40, $40 to $50, depending on where you buy them from. But so that was a little bit of that. Yeah, and Magna Rail is better for N scale, although you can do Fowler, you can get Fowler N scale. The thing about Magna Rail and Fowler are the same price to start. The starter kits are both $150 to $200, but once you buy the Magna Rail starter kit, expansions are $50 to $100 for more chain and more gears. But the cars are whatever you want to pay for a car. You can buy a $6 car at a model train show and work it on your Magna Rail, whereas Fowler, the cars are $80 to $150. And in Wiesmann, the cars are $150 to $300 American dollars for the Wiesmann vehicles. So it's cheap, expensive, really expensive. And so that's why I'm trying to do a hybrid. I like the magnetic tape system of the Wiesmann, but I'm going to see if I can use them in conjunction with the Fowler motors. And the reason that might be an issue is because the reed sensors that activate these motors are magnetic activated. The magnet goes over them and pop, it goes off. Well, I'm taking a magnet road and putting it next to the reed sensors. Are the reed sensors going to be reading the magnet road and just constantly be open? That's what I'm going to find out hopefully sometime this week. But that's what I have been doing. But anyhow, hey, Marty's here. Hi, Marty. And hello, Mons. Hey, Mon, how are you? So yeah, a starter kit from Fowler, $150 to $200. A starter kit from Magna Rail, $150 to $200. So the starting expense is the same between Fowler and Magna Rail. But Magna Rail, if you just want a static traffic flow, and I know that sounds weird because I'm using static, but the idea, your cars will just move. They will follow the chain and they will move. And people make beautiful scenes with them. Okay, it's up to your creativity. Again, Graham Folston from Lakeside has Magna Rail that does a bike ride, because you can use Magna Rail to do boat scenes. You can do it to use, they have a boat system, but he has one where they do bikes, and he has models of himself and his wife on bikes, and they go out. They pedal out of the garage of their house, because he's modeled his house and the housing development he lives in. They go down the road, up a small hill into a park. They bike around the park. They come back out and they go back to his house. It's amazing. And it's very cool. And he bought the original startup system, installed it on his layout, because it really is, Magna Rail is the easiest, I think, to install. That's a personal opinion, okay? I'm not saying that's how they advertise it, but it is a different system. It's a chain drive with cogs, gears to run, but it's static in the sense that the things will just keep going in sort of a circle. And that's great if you got a place where maybe the cars go and then go like an underseen, a tunnel, where they go through a tunnel and they'll go on the other side of part of your layout or whatever and come back out the other side. Fowler is cool because you can create bus stops. You can have cars passing other cars. You can have a car pull into a parking lot and stop and park. You can have bus stops where the bus is going down the road, pulls off, stops at the bus stop, and goes. So you can do a lot more realistic. And if you really get into Fowler's advanced stuff, you can create entire traffic flows where you have traffic going both ways this way, and you can have four-way intersections and all the cars stop with working stop lights that are all integrated with these fancy, expensive circuit boards I was talking about, which you can then control through your computer and even use JMRI or a Z21, Z21 as Europeans and Australians call it, or any control system will operate it. So anyhow, I've been babbling about that, and I really did not plan a lot for today's show because, like I said, normally when Artie's not here, I'm just sitting on the sidelines, goofing around. And yeah, if you have a little tech knowledge, Marty, you can kind of build your own. You get, and Fowler even sells the individual kits, the chassis, the motors, and whatever else. The little mini circuit boards or Arduinos, and you can put them in. The other big negative is that right now Fowler, the smallest Fowler can do, and the same is true of Wiesmann, the smallest, well, actually Wiesmann can't even go this small yet. This is the smallest vehicle Fowler can get automated on your system. They have not been able to get their technology down to a car size. They have not been able to get it down to this kind of, regular car. Or, since I'm showing cars, I should do the family car and show the Dodge Charger. But Fowler has not been able to get their tech to cars. They can do vans. Actually, I think recently they've been able to get them into sizes this one. Now, Miniature Wonderland, the famous gigantic model train place in Europe, they started with a Fowler car system that they have completely altered and changed. In fact, Fowler and Garrett Brown, one of the owners, but he's a huge computer whiz, he has used their technology and designed his own tech, which he then sells back to Fowler so that they can advance what they're doing. But they started as a Fowler car system, and the basics are a Fowler car system, but they've gone beyond what Fowler car can do because they have the money to do it. So Miniature Wonderland has an amazing Fowler car system in it, but it's their system, and they've sold some of their programming technology of their vehicles back to Fowler. So he's taken what Fowler created, advanced it, sold it back to Fowler at a profit, of course, and now Fowler uses some of that. And so they kind of work together. Wiesmann is just way off on their own doing something. Of course, if anybody pays attention to Miniature Wonderland right now, they're doing the most advanced tech, trying to get their Formula One, the Grand Prix, the Monte Carlo Grand Prix, the Monaco Grand Prix. They are so close to having it actually ready, but they had to design technology that didn't exist yet. And yeah, I mean, that's another option. You can have remote control HO scale cars. You can do remote control. But again, the idea is, especially with layouts and displays with grandkids, or, I say grandkids, but your children or whatever, remote controls are kind of nice because you can let the kids just steer the car and go around in HO scale. But one of the nice things is to just turn them on and let them go and have it as a display, because that's what I was trying to do, was set it all up where I could have a button that when I first started working on this, I didn't have any grandchildren. Now I've got a 3-year-old grandson, Kyan, where when Kyan's older, he can just hit the button, everything turns on and goes. And that's what I was trying to do when I screwed it all up. So now I'm trying to go back. It's just I've redesigned it and tried to get things to work, and I've never gotten even the basic stuff to work since. And it's crazy. But anyhow, what I would like to do, hey, Derek Alexander, how are you? Nice to have you here. That was the only thing I was going to show, just kind of what I've been doing. And again, I keep forgetting how to import my OBS, where I could pop up all my different cameras here and you could see it. You could see my layout, and I could really point out what I'm working on and how I'm going. But I guess we'll have to wait till I put a video out. But I've got almost everything laid, and I'm going to try to put in the motors this week and wire them up again with the reed sensors and see if I can actually get everything working. Yeah, Packers are on. I was watching the Texans a little bit get killed by the Ravens. I hate the Ravens, but there it is. So yeah, it's something I'm working on because, like I said, I stopped being a tech guy when it comes to microchip boards and all that 35 years ago. In the early 90s, I built my own computers. Now, I still know how to put a circuit board in, but everything is advanced too far. I see all these guys using Arduinos, and I'm scratching my head. You know, guys talk about Arduinos like they're easy to. Oh yeah, you just stick in an Arduino here and you do this here. It's easy, and I'm like, I don't know. But it's just not where my field of interest and knowledge goes. You want me to wire your house for you? I can do that. You want me to connect something to an Arduino and build my own Fowler car? Forget it. So anyhow, if anyone wants to pop up. Oh, was that N-Gage? I saw that short, Monsville. I didn't even notice it was N-Gage. Oh well, I've been out of sorts the last few days. So anyhow, let me see if I can. No, that didn't want to work. Oh, that's because I'm hitting the wrong button. There we go. I'm going to post this here, and if anybody wants to come up on screen and chat about something more interesting than me, Artie got stuck in LA. Well, actually, he was going to spend the night in LA, but Artie had some problems at the airport, and I had to help him out. But yeah, these little boxes here, these are about 60, 70 bucks each, but this is the small one. I don't even know where I threw the one that I was so pissed off at. I've got it somewhere over there in it. But you plug in your read sensor goes to where you see E1 and E2. Your power goes to the two minuses there, but E1, E2 is where you put your actually there's a so A1 and A2 is your two motors that you'd put, like a stop motor and a turnout motor. Like if you're doing a bus stop, you have to have two motors. You have to have, this is the turnout motor. It causes the bus to change lanes. And then this is the stop motor. This is the motor that, and basically what this motor does is it creates an electromagnetic pulse that shuts down the motor, and it emits that pulse for whatever timer you set. So if you set it for 45 seconds, it will emit that pulse for 45 seconds and the car won't be able to move. Or if you set it for 2 minutes, it will emit that pulse for that long. But these are very sensitive. If you put them in upside down, you cross the wires by mistake, these short out. These are very delicate, expensive motors. But so this one creates a quick pulse, poop, and it will literally, it blows and pushes the, it creates a miniature electromagnetic field that causes the ski, actually that one's not even electromagnetic field. It creates a reverse polarity that causes the magnet to shift over to the other wire that is coming into the top. Let me see if I can show you the top in here. Should be in here somewhere. Where are you? Are you all wrapped up in the paper? I thought the top was, yep, there's the top. So there's the top, and as you can see, the main road wire comes in there. You would actually attach the little wire there, and then depending on which direction, you'll have another wire that goes straight. Notice there's an empty space there where the wire doesn't continue. So there's a straight, and then there's a left turn and a right turn. So you can only do one at a time. You either set it up to go straight or turn left, or set it up to go straight and turn right. And it creates a pulse that sends that magnet. That magnet will bump over. So you'll have a wire. You'd have three wires coming in. You'd have one wire here and another wire in the second straight. And then you'd have a third wire on one of these two 45-degree points or 30-degree offsets. You can only do it on one side. And so it will create a pulse and it pushes that magnet over to the other wire. It grabs that wire and goes in the direction of that wire. And that's why I'm doing a hybrid, because I'm still using some of the Fowler car wires and motors, but I'm using the magnetic track from Wiesmann. But that's how that works. And the motor mounts under your table, and the motor is just a standard DC connection. So there's your motor. And actually, that's the top of your motor. And if I hold it upside down, you'll see the little punch pin. That punch pin comes up and creates a magnetic poof and causes the magnet to change direction. But that's that bad boy. That sounds great, Ken, and I certainly could look into it. My problem is I am not a video learner. I know that sounds terrible, but yeah, I have watched videos on Arduino before, and what I really need is the pieces in front of me and somebody sitting next to me and making me physically do it. I don't know why, because I am a cursed word in America these days. I'm an academic. Well, I'm not going to go into sounding where it sounds bragging, but I'm an academic and I'm well read, and also I have good mechanical skills. But even with my dad, if I take a Chilton's, the old automotive repair book, and you just read to me and even show me the picture, I struggle. You take me out like my dad did and put me at the car and say, here's this part and here's what it does. And this is how you take it off. This is how you put it in. This is how you adjust it. I learn it like that. But, I can build models from diagrams. But when it comes to tech stuff, I seem to need to actually physically be holding the stuff and working it. Follow along with the kid he tells you to get. Well, I can give it a try for sure. But for now, I'm just going to work on this stuff. And then I can always go back and watch when I'm ready. Now that I'm retired, I've got all that time. Nobody wants to pop up on screen. I popped that chat link in here. I was hoping other people would come in, but I will put that link in one more time if anybody wants to pop up on the board. Oh, I do have somebody in the basement. Sorry about that, Thomas. But there we go. Hello, Thomas.
Hey, Anthony. How you doing?
I'm doing good, other than I'm babbling like I always do. But this time I'm trying to put on a show. Normally I let Artie try to put on the show, and I just interrupt him.
Yeah, I know Artie's been having trouble in his travels, I guess. But and I do the same thing. I have to see things before I can do the things. It's always better that way.
Well, I learned my father was one of the guys from his period. My father would be 97 if he were alive today. No, wait, what is this? 2024. So he'd be 94. If my father were alive, he'd be 94. But he was one of these guys. There are 3 houses in our city that he and his brother built themselves, from pouring the foundation to the wood to the plumbing to the electrical. They built it themselves.
Right. That's the same as my dad did. Yeah.
And my dad raced and repaired cars as a hobby until I came along. He stopped all that when I came along. But my dad was one of those guys. You're going to learn how to do this. You're going to learn how to put up drywall. You're going to learn how to mud. You're going to learn how to fix electrical. So when you ever buy a house, you're not paying some guy triple what you need to be paying to do it.
Right.
But my problem was my dad was one of these guys that taught you when, okay, I have to fix this. Come here. All right. And then it was 20 minutes to an hour of the stupid motherfucker son of a bitch, and I just tuned him out. But I watched what he did, but I didn't listen to him. And for years, when I would call my dad and say, Dad, I'm trying to fix this thing in my house. Well, what are you working on? Well, it's the electrical here. what are you working on? The thingamabob that does this to this, because I never learned the name for a lot of this stuff because I tuned my dad out, and I just said the red wire that comes from this to this. Oh, the capacitor, blah blah blah. Oh, okay, whatever it was. Yeah. But I know how to fix it, and I know how to do it all. I built this basement, rebuilt this basement all the way down to the studs, new wiring, new everything, and it hasn't blown up in the 7 years, 5 years, 6 years since I've redone it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
Yeah, that's how I learned everything from my dad. I learned how to do masonry work, and then I do electrical work, plumbing, roofs put on, siding. So I built my house from ground up too.
I've not done a roof on a house I owned. I helped Joyce's dad do a roof once, and
it's hard work.
I have a fear of heights. And of course, a fear of heights is a fear of falling. So I don't like being up.
I was on roofs that were like this, and we used to have to put foam down so we wouldn't slide off. So
we did rope tethers around the chimney stacks and climbed down some of those to get to like the dormer roofs on these big slanted, these big Dutch colonial houses with those.
Yeah, some of them roofs pitches were really steep.
Yeah, they were. I did enjoy that, so I don't do my own roofs anymore.
We had a couple guys fall off the roof, but luckily
I would have been one of those.
Yeah, I never did though, because we used to do it every weekend. We had one guy that he would go around getting people's houses that they wanted the roofs done, and then we would work for him, and you make some good money for a weekend. It was pretty good. It was all cash. So you didn't have to worry about taxes or anything on it.
So are you working on anything? Are you building anything? I don't see your print. Oh, nope, your printer is working. So there it is.
Yeah, I'm still working on my subway system, making the parts for it. I got it like halfway around. I still got a way to go, and I just tested some of the track, and I got some short circuits. So the wires are probably flipped. I have to flip them. So it was the first maiden run, and it went pretty good.
Now, what brand is that? That's not an Ender, is it?
No, that's an Anycubic.
That's Anycubic. Because I have an Ender 5 Pro, and then I've got a Mingda, and my Mingda is pretty good, but both of them really are temperature sensitive. I have to have them in enclosures. The basement has variable temperatures, and actually there's a couple areas where the basement is a little drafty, and they don't like that.
No, mine runs my temperature in my office here where I have the 3 printers. My temperature is usually around 70 degrees in here. So
okay.
Sometimes it drops down to 60 overnight because I don't have no heat on in this room. But then I come in the morning, I turn the heat on just to bring it up to 70 again. But the printers run all night long. I don't have no problem.
Because I do have my Ender 5, which was supposed to be an upgrade from the Ender 3. It's supposedly self-leveling.
Right.
And it also has dual axis. So instead of the table moving, the print head does all the moving. The table only goes up and down. That's the Z axis, if I remember.
Right. Yeah. Z axis up and down. Right.
Yeah. So that's the only thing the table does, and it's supposed to be self-leveling. But man, I probably one half of every print I try with the Ender, something goes wrong. All of a sudden, I'll come down 3 hours later, and the building's been moved, and I've got spaghetti all over it.
Oh, okay. Well, what I do, I used to have that problem too. Things would start moving, and sometimes you have to mess around with the zero offset.
Yeah.
And you might want to make that -5 or +5, depending on where your nozzle comes out.
Hey, Anthony and Thomas.
Right.
Hi, Randall.
And I don't level my bed unless I'm having real bad problems, which I don't have at all. Right. I just go in there, hit a button, and it says auto leveling. I hit that, and then it just does its thing.
That's my Mingda is auto level where the head goes down, hits the table in 24
Right.
different spots.
Yeah, that's
and
how the
then
anti-cubic works. Yep.
calibrates itself, and you just need to reset that every couple of weeks if you're doing a lot of printing.
Yeah. This thing here is like nonstop, this printer, and it just keeps running and running and running and running, and it's the same. I always print the same thing, and sometimes I have to put a burnt brim around it to keep it in place because I have these flat pieces that are about 9 inches tall,
right,
and they're only about a quarter of an inch thick and 6 inches wide, and that's the floor pieces for my subway system. So
little things definitely come out good for me, and then when I go tall or really wide, that's when we start having trouble, because that's why I got my Mingda. I can print really wide, big buildings. It's got a big bed.
Right.
The problem with the Mingda is that because it is a bed mover, it prints very slowly because of the size of the bed. It goes very slow. So things that might take 3 hours, 4 hours on one will take double that time on a Mingda.
Yeah. Well, this is a 5-hour print that I'm doing here because I put 2 of them on.
Okay.
I was doing one at a time before, and I said I just do 2 because I need 2 for each side.
Gotcha.
And 1 for each side, and that's what holds up the floor underneath my layout for the subway track.
Okay.
Down right, and those brackets I redesigned them because the other ones were only this tall. Now they're this tall, so I had to drop it down because my helix, where I was coming off the helix to come onto the subway system, was off by 2 inches, and it would have been too much of an incline to go for a short distance to get to the subway track. So I just took the brackets and made them longer, and the whole thing just dropped down.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's what I'm working on.
Anyhow, hi, Randall. You did come in. You did say hi to us, but we were bad.
Anything, Thomas?
Hey, Randall.
You're all far up the hotel layout again.
The hotel layout.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what I just printed today on my rosin printer, a truck.
Yeah. Yeah. The resin printers you can do so much more with, unfortunately.
Yeah, details on it. Yeah.
Now, do you vent yours outside, or do you have one of those where the whole containment is controlled?
Yeah. I have any cubic rosin printers. I have a 4K and a 6K.
Okay.
6K has a big build plate on it, and the 4K has a small build plate on it. So I only could get 2 of these trucks at the same time because I was using the small one. The big one, I was making these things. They're clear.
Nice.
And you can see it's clear. It's a little hazy, but you still can see through it. These are going to be the sides of the subway station, so at least you got to see stuff going through. So, but these are 9 inches long.
Right.
And they stand up this way on the rosin printer, straight up and down.
Okay. But again, I didn't quite hear it. Do you have an exterior vent where you vent them out, or they have you said they have a built-in?
Yeah, it's all built in. Yeah.
Okay, because when I last looked into resin printers, the ones I looked at have to be exterior vented because of the fumes in there. Because I got 2 asthmatics that live in this house, so instead of buying the resin printers, I bought the filament printers.
Yeah. Well, see, I bought this thing that detects stuff in the room, and it's always at 0. So I know I'm not emitting anything.
Good. Okay. Because like I said, Joyce has bad asthma. My daughter has really bad asthma. And
if you have asthma and stuff like that, you have to worry about those things. Yeah.
I finally installed we just had new windows put in down here, and I installed cinder block windows with a vent, with a 4-inch vent, so that I can look into getting a spray painter or a spray painting booth down here, and potentially in the long run a resin printer, and be able to exterior vent them so I don't kill my wife and daughter.
Right.
So-
Now
so-
on the filament, I don't smell anything on the filament.
Right.
The rosin, it's mostly odorless stuff now, so you don't even smell anything. So, and they're both
Okay.
contained. You have to put the hood on before you start printing.
Right.
Mine are set so that it has to be on. You can have them set, you don't have to have them on. I don't want to run that way because you never know if the part is on the build plate and it falls off and it goes into the rosin bin. You got rosin splatter all over the place. So this way that protects that from anything getting out. So I won't start a print unless those covers are on.
So Russ at Rock and O Gauge Railroad, he asked me if this was Bachman track. This is actually a model power track. This is part of the metal train set. Now, obviously, the locomotive's not part of that set. It's the locomotive for the set's actually back there on the table. But this is actually model power track.
Nice. So are you still in the hotel, Randall?
Yep. They about 2 or 3 days before I was scheduled to go back to Thayer, they called me and said, "We're keeping you another month."
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah. So, and it's quite bizarre because I haven't been out in 4 days on a trip.
Yeah.
So you're not only are you stuck waiting for a call, you're stuck in a hotel waiting for a call.
Yep.
Well, at least you have something to do. You got your train.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say it's a good thing. When I went back to Thayer about 2 weeks ago, I grabbed this set from the house, from my house, and brought it back with me. So, so it's actually a good thing I did that.
Yeah.
I had originally planned to bring the Bachman set instead of this one, but I could just get to this set a whole lot easier, and I just grabbed it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, just grab a few locos and a few cars
Yeah.
and mix and match and
Right. Let it run.
Yeah, I mean it's a good running set. I mean I like it. The one thing I don't like about the locomotive that came with the set, on the bottom when you flip the engine over, it's got a little slot on each truck where you can grease and oil the gears. Well, the problem with that is that gear is exposed, and as it runs on the track, it's constantly throwing the lubricants onto the rails, and it just makes it nasty looking.
Also make it slippery.
Yeah, I think Model Power's idea was to build a cheap, durable train set that's easy to maintain. And
what a novel concept.
yeah. I mean, back in the day, you could probably buy these sets for like little over $100. I mean, back in the mid 2000s, late 2000s. So.
No, that's one of the things with places. I mean, Walmart doesn't, at least any Walmart around here, even at Christmas time, doesn't sell model train kits. But you used to be able to go into Toys R Us and the equivalent of a Tyco model train set. It would have a Lupa track, a loco, and some cars, and you could get it for $50, $60.
Right.
And yeah, the quality wasn't going to be great, but if you're buying it for somebody just to maybe introduce, for a kid to introduce them into the
or just to put it around the tree or something like that,
Well, you can still, like, Walmart will sell those really El Cheapo all plastic things for $30-$40 for the Christmas tree. But like, if you're thinking, again, a big debate's been on a lot of channels again about because of what's happened in the UK, the hobby's dying, the world is ending, and and we got to get kids into the hobby. And of course, everybody talks about cost and that, but
and the problem is, when these companies do try to build something like that, a cheap set, they look down on them and say, well, it's not prototypical. It's not, it lacks all these details and stuff. It's either you want the super detailed stuff or you want to try to expand the hobby to get kids in the hobby. So, I mean,
I think companies need to put something where maybe they're not going to make a big turnaround profit on it, but get some basic stuff out there. But again, you ask 100 people in the hobby, how do you get kids in the hobby? You're going to get 150 answers.
Yeah.
But the number one way to get kids in the hobby is, one, be in the hobby yourself, and two, let them play with stuff. I mean, I didn't grow up in the hobby. My dad bought me a model train, but he never said, hey, let's get your train out and mess with it. It was like, go play with your trains or something. I was like, I'd rather be outside doing something. And so I set my train up a couple of times. It went in circles and it was boring as all hell. And that was 1969. And you want to get a kid, but my grandson Kyan sees Opa's trains and they make noise and they smoke and they do all this stuff. And I let him run the controls. He's going to be in the hobby, but at 12, 13, he's going to discover girls or boys or whatever. And he's going to discover other things. And the trains are going to take a back seat. But if you plant the seed, maybe somewhere along the line, he'll always want to come out and hang out with grandpa and maybe run trains. And then when life happens and he either settles down with somebody or lives alone and has 50 cats, he'll decide he wants to put something up in a room, and he'll probably inherit a few things from me when I move on, because right now he's my one and only grandchild. So, he gets it all, because my kids aren't going to want this.
Yeah, that's the same with me. When I move on, my niece will get everything, and then whatever happens to that then is whatever happens to them. But
yeah, because my kids are going to fight over my comic book collection and my Warhammer stuff. That's what they're going to fight over. My other hobbies. I've had to sit down in my will and say everything has to be sold, and they split them because I've got books where, like, Dad, I get your X-Men books, don't I? I get that one. It's like, okay, no, guys, you just sell them and split the money.
Some of those old comics are worth a lot of money, though.
Yeah, I had some. I also had some old vinyl that was worth money. And then, a flood happened at my parents' home while I was away at West Point. And I don't have those vinyl and expensive comic books anymore.
Yeah, I lost all my vinyls in a hurricane.
Oh, yuck.
That was when I lived in Key West.
The most expensive comic I have now is I have the first appearance and the first named view of Deadpool. That is my most expensive comic book, which when the first Deadpool movie came out went from worth about $50 to they were going online for $850. And I was like, kids, I should sell this. My kids are like, no, Dad, you can't sell that. I was like, yes, I can, but I didn't.
Right there's the engine that is actually supposed to go with this set. So, and the thing about this engine is it's all die-cast metal, which is what Monsville was just talking about just a second ago. So this thing from basically rails to roof, with the exception of the couplers, but is die-cast metal.
Now that is Randall. Now that is an F7, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And that is a Santa Fe. Now, is that one technically a Super Chief, or does it have to have the war bonnet to be a Super Chief?
Now, this would typically be what you would see pulling the Super Chief back in the 50s and 60s.
Because that was the first model train set my father bought me. I was 6 years old, 1969, and for Christmas, my dad bought me a Tyco Santa Fe Super Chief with like 4 cars and a Lupa track and the little Tyco slide. It had a little slide pin controller and a couple of DCC mounts. I actually still have a similar, actually the same thing down here, not the original.
And right there is what I was talking about throwing the lube out of it onto the tracks. It's got this little slot right here. You can actually see it's pretty nasty there up front. I'm going to wipe that off.
And that slot is to be there so you can put grease inside it.
Right, exactly. So yeah, you can kind of see some of that junk is on there, but really for this being an all die-cast engine from like the mid 2000s, early 2000s even, this is a pretty solid looking piece. I mean,
All right, take care, Marty.
They should have made like a little hatch that you could open and close.
yeah, I mean, but if you actually look at the motor, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it looks like a clone of an Athearn Blue Box motor. It's got the dual brass flywheels on it.
Yep.
I'm assuming the motor would be the same, but yeah, this thing's heavy, and those cars are heavy too. They're all die-cast metal as well. So.
And they just keep running.
But the biggest issues, of course, in the hobby, and every live stream will always talk about it somewhere down the line, is we all talk about expense. It's become a much more expensive hobby. But again, if you know a little tech, a little fix it up, you can buy stuff cheap on eBay or whatever and fix it up if you look for your sales right.
Yep. Yeah, you can buy stuff for
I have friends that the last couple of years I've done live streams from the Toledo train show, and there's just tables and it's loaded with $4 and $5 freight cars, HO freight cars, $4, $5, $6, $7. And I've got friends in Europe that just go, "Oh my gosh, that's so cheap!" It's like.
And you go to like estate sales. If you hit the right one at the right time, you could buy a lot of train stuff for not a lot of money. I mean, I bought multi packs of freight cars for as little as $2 a set.
Well, so here you go.
This here car came from an estate sale.
Oh yeah.
And the only thing missing was one of the couplers, and they have metal clips on them, so I just found some metal clips online and ordered them. They were like $3 for a bag of 10 or something, and just put a Katie coupler on it, and that's it.
Okay, talk to me about Monsville here mentions Lifelike. Now, my experience with Lifelike was slot cars, which hit me as sort of similar to the old Tyco slot cars. Does Lifelike have connection to Tyco somehow?
I don't know.
Not really. They were a competitor to Tyco. Some of their stuff was similar, but Lifelike was their own company pretty much.
Because I don't know how old a company Lifelike is. I just remember we had nothing that was Lifelike around here. And then all the Tyco toys disappeared, and all of a sudden Lifelike started showing up. And this is in the 80s when I started noticing, oh, this is Lifelike. Like these used to be Tyco, or even the company Coleco. I mentioned the company Coleco, and people like, who? And I'm like, wow, nobody remembers ColecoVision and Coleco Electronics, the old little handheld electronic football, baseball, whatever games. Coleco made electric football.
I remember Lifelike back in the 60s.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Never saw Lifelike, and then all of a sudden stuff that used to
they
be
used to make trees. They used to make HO scale trees and stuff like that. And it was more scenery stuff.
The guy who would be a real expert on Lifelike that I know would be Harrison at SMT Mainline. He knows a lot about that Lifelike stuff. Okay. I like you. I remember the Lifelike stuff from the 80s and 90s, up until they were bought out by Wallers in 2005. Now, the kicker was Lifelike, somewhere around, I think it was 1989. The performance of their engines were really suffering. Their quality was not that good, and they wanted to design a locomotive that performed well and could compete with the bigger, the big dogs. So that eventually is what blossomed into the Proto 2000 series, where you had locomotives that were higher detailed, higher quality, and ran a lot better. And that ultimately set the bar for what we have today. So
Now, because my experience when I see lifelike was this looked like the exact same slot car set somebody else had, and the lifelike stuff just seemed crappier. And then when I got into model buildings, like, you know, I did tabletop wargaming and I would look for structures that I could kit bash or whatever. Lifelike was cheaper, but it was cheaper.
Yeah.
It was just,
You got what you paid for.
because I was like plastic. I was always Plasticville was the most
Dominant.
and I use cheap in the negative connotation here, not price wise, just cheap, looked crappy, very. I would never. I apologize. I hope I don't offend too many people. But I would never put a lifelike model building on my layout. They just look so cheap that even if you tried to touch them up, they just look crappy. That's my personal opinion. Just so shoot me, hate me for it.
Well, I mean, they weren't the best quality in those years. I mean, a lot like
Hey,
Botman was
yeah,
back in those days too. Botman was not the greatest either.
I have a lifelike 7-Eleven store, and it's not too bad. It looks okay.
Hello, NDT. Joe Rader. So, you know, that was just, again, my I don't want to bash the company, even though it sounds like I'm bashing the company. It just, that was my interpretation, because in the flip side, in my world, which is the European stuff, we've got a lot of companies that made HO buildings. There was Fowler, there's Fowler, Volmer, Keebry, Pola used to make HO, and then there's this little company called Auhagen. And Auhagen is still out there, and Auhagen makes beautiful buildings, but they are definitely cheaper, lower quality than like the Fowler and Volmer, the nicer looking ones. But a little bit of touch up, they look as good or almost as good as the expensive Fowler for a third of the price. So I have a lot of Auhagen buildings because they're, even though they look cheaper to start with and they're not as good, maybe quality, the plastic's not quite as a good quality plastic. But when you put them in and a little bit of touch up here, a little bit of putty here or something like that, and you put them together, it doesn't take much work. They look just as good as everybody else. And maybe there are companies like that. Because, I mean, when I look at Walters, I go into the model shop, or actually the Hobby Town USA we have in town to occasionally buy something. You know, the Walter stuff, all, at least on picture, when it's built by professionals, Walter stuff always looks good. And I hear some guys bashing Walters about either their instructions, whatever else. But I got a couple of Walter kits, and I like them. I think they're really good.
Yeah, Walters actually makes really solid stuff.
Okay, you have to excuse me for a second. I have to allow a crazy Dane on. He's awakened and waiting to come in. Hello, Jean Ricard. Shouldn't you be in bed sleeping?
Hey, John.
No, I heard you were taking over Art's show tonight, so I thought I would crash your show as well and give my 2 cents of opinion on your subject.
But you're Danish. You don't have sense. You have kroner or whatever you call your silly money.
Yeah, but so that you guys can accept it and understand it, I use your.
Well, hang on. I'll have to check the exchange rate on that one, John.
Yeah, Russ, I remember Manawa. In fact, I had a Manawa GP20 many, many years ago, back when I was far less mature with my trains than I am now. So, unfortunately, that locomotive is no longer with us. It's in little bitty pieces. So,
there's one thing I will say as a comment to your remarks on buildings, you know, on kits, is that, for example, the Danish company Helgen has made a lot of buildings also for companies like Walters. You know, they are subcontractors.
So yeah, I've got a couple of Helgens on my layout.
Yeah, but that's their own, you know, when you have their brand name. But I know for a fact that Helgen for many years made a lot of big buildings for Walters as well. So,
because I've also heard people say that a lot of Fowler kits get that Walters has a lot of Fowler kits that they just repurpose into. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. It's generally a lot of those companies have taken older kits and reboxed it or just made a rerun and made a new box for it and sent it to the United States in kits
Like
for that.
Woodland Scenics releases their figurines, but their figurines are old Fowler figures.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Today when you see what you can do with printers and all of that, and scanners, you maybe just buy a set and make a duplicate of what you have got from that company.
I
don't
suppose.
know. And I assume it's very expensive to make, at least when companies like Prices, they have artists sitting and hand modeling the figurine, so it's relatively costly to make a figurine like that. Whereas if you first have the model and can scan it, it's cheaper.
Well, that's a whole nother discussion on what 3D modeling, you look at startup companies like Bernard from Mini Prints in Canada and what he's doing now, or just in the 5 years that people like West Hill Wagons work in the UK that are making so many accessories. That's why it's kind of funny that we talk about a hobby that is dying when there are more startup companies producing product for it right now than ever before. And there's actually more companies making model trains and coaches and wagons. Ta-da! Mini Prints.
Yeah.
Randall has one.
And I'll tell you how I got that. Rayron VR had a contest, and I didn't know it this time until I actually found out by chance I actually won it. If you entered his chat, were the first person in his chat, you won a $20 gift card from Mini Prints. So I use that to get these tanks, these propane tanks here. Mm-hmm. So, and I said in the video these were 500, 250 gallon. Somebody actually corrected me, and they're actually 1,500 gallon tanks. But right there's a 1,000-gallon tank right there. And here's the
like it hold more than a couple ounces.
Here's the 500-gallon tank.
Yeah, but you have to look at scale size.
These things are great.
Scale size.
I'm gonna use them for some buildings I got.
But Art, Jean Ricard, if we're going to talk about scale size, a gallon is still a gallon.
Yeah.
A gallon is a gallon. Even if you're this tiny, a gallon is a gallon.
Well, it is if it's a gallon is 1/87th of a gallon. When you scale it down, it's the size.
Did you print those yourself, Thomas?
Yes.
There you go.
They're not hard to make. I just went up with Tinkercad and made a cylinder.
Thingiverse is a good friend of mine, so I don't have to design until I really need something that nobody has designed yet.
Well, I go on Thingiverse and I can't find something, so then I just go.
I can use Tinkercad, but my stuff is very simplistic.
Yeah, Tinkercad is my friend.
I have a question to Thomas. You said you were building like some kind of support for your track bed. Have you seen the new system from Nock, where they kind of making it like Lego blocks so that you print relatively smaller bits that can be stacked on top of each other?
No, I never saw that. No.
Oh, okay. If you
well, let me explain. I have a level above me. And then I said, it'd be nice to have something running underneath that level. So that's where I'm putting it, underneath it.
Okay. Okay, so
So
you
it's all
actually,
under. It's like it's
Well,
underground.
it's custom made, which means it's probably going to be, it's going to be perfect fit, and it's cheaper because he's making it himself.
Yeah, making
Yeah.
it myself. And then I have escalators going up to the level, and I have a subway station up on the top.
yeah,
Then I was going to make the escalators automatic and go around and around, but I says I don't know. I got to figure out the design on that. I'm still working on it.
yeah. Okay. I got the idea then. I thought you were going upwards, you know, making an elevated railway instead of going
Oh
down.
no. Mine is like Jim Tedesco. He made an elevated track around his layout on his
Yeah.
for his passenger cars to run from station to station. Mine's underground. I'm trying to simulate an underground subway station.
What kind of rolling material are you using on that subway? Because usually subway trains are not the most common made as models.
Well, I have one model I bought from Train World. It had three cars and the engine in it, and then I 3D printed my own, and that's
Okay.
still in the box. That I'm still working on that one.
Okay.
Again, that's what 3D printing is bringing. If nobody makes it, you can make your own if you learn how to do it. Yeah.
Right. And
that's
I got
what I need, John Ricard. I need an S7 Berlin U-Bahn. I need an S7 Straßenbahn. I need I specifically
No,
need
are
an
you
S7.
talking about a U-Bahn train or a Straßenbahn train?
Well, they technically they're Straßenbahn, but they do both.
Okay. Okay.
So like the ones we rode in Hamburg together.
Yeah.
Where they're both above ground and then go down for a bit and then come back up.
Yeah, but that's not a Straßenbahn. That's not a tram, you know. A Straßenbahn is a tram. The other
they call
is
it
a train
S-Bahn.
set.
Jean Ricard, they call it S-Bahn.
Yeah, Stadtbahn.
And guess
not Straßenbahn. Don't confuse me. I know what I'm talking about.
That makes one of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Lucky for us. One of us knows what he's talking about.
So anyhow, yeah, Monsville. Thingiverse is a great way to waste an hour looking for an eye. I give myself time. I give myself about 20 minutes to half an hour. And if I haven't found what I'm looking for by typing it in, then I give up.
Yeah.
There are other sites that do it as well, but
there's a lot of sites out there that have files. But then when you find one, you click on it, and then it says, "Oh, it costs £25, or it costs
right
$7, or it costs £35."
No,
$8.
Thingiverse is not unproductive.
No.
There is so much good on Thingiverse for 3D printing, people that have put in the work.
Right.
It's just sometimes you are looking for something that's very rare and you're hoping somebody else made it because, like me, you don't have the design, or maybe you want to save yourself time from design. So Thingiverse is thousands and thousands of stuff. And just in the model train hobby, HO scale, N scale, there are so many buildings and vehicles, and the things are there. And the nice thing about Thingiverse is it is free.
Right.
Now, I do
have find a couple of models that weren't free on Thingiverse.
Well, yeah, I guess there are guys that will post. Most people, I mean, most of it's supposed to be free, but they have a donate.
Right. Yeah.
And I donate or tip. I think they call it tip.
Right.
And the thing is, I always do. If I take a file and I print it, I kind of tip anywhere from $2 to $5 or whatever, because it was their design. They did the heavy lifting, so to speak.
But it's really hard to find the scale that you wanted in. Dwight Curley sent me a file today, it was a 3MF file. I had to convert it to STL. And I
Right.
put it in my slicer program, and the thing took up the whole screen. I said, that's not HO. So I had to reduce it down to,
I did that. Somebody posted something as HO, and then I put it in my slicer program, and it came out like this.
oh yeah,
And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's like Z scale.
right.
Now,
I
technically, you can
I did
go.
one. I couldn't even find it on the slicer. It was so small.
Oh wow! Because there is a way, and I figure you would know. I don't, but I know there is a way that you can go back into the file they did and open it up and recreate the size.
Well, in your slicer program, you can hit the resize button. They
Right.
all have a resize button, and then you get your X, Y, and Z axis, and then
Yeah,
you can,
and pull it up.
then you have like it says at 100% right now. So if you want it bigger, you make it 200% or 300%.
Right.
And you go up and down, and
So-
make sure you have the checkbox for all three axes to change equally.
Gotcha. Right. Because yeah, I was trying that with one, but I got it where okay, increase by 350%, and it was still like okay, that's too small. Okay, increase by 3,500%. Okay, that's too big, and it was just okay. Where am I going to go? And I think 750% wound up being HO scale, something like that. It was like okay, that's close enough, and print it.
I got a website that converts to scales that I go to. I can't remember where it is, but I have a link in my thing somewhere, and it tells me if it's 164th and what do you have to do to get it to 187th and stuff like that.
Right. Well, that was the problem. This guy called it HO and said it was 187. So, okay.
Yeah.
Now, then you got to go in and figure, okay, according to my grid, this is 2 millimeters wide. So what would that be? I usually go by door frames and estimate door frames at 7 foot.
My favorite
So
3D
I look at a door in a building. Okay, how tall is that door frame?
Right.
In millimeters. So how would I make that? I just have to come up with bizarre math to try to expand it when somebody, I don't want to say screws up like that, but it appears to be a screw up where they called it HO, but boy, you put it in the slicer and that is not HO, dude. That's not even a doghouse in HO.
Right. Well, this is my favorite tool for 3D printing.
There you go.
Yeah. Without this, you never know.
Good night, John K. Have a good night. Yeah, and there are 2, 3, and 4 roundhouses that you can find on Thingiverse too in HO scale and scale. There's one guy that's got them up that they're sectional where you just can keep building the section and stick them together and build a bigger roundhouse as you want. So there is stuff. I tend to go looking for European style houses.
Right.
Just because printing it up myself is cheaper than buying it. Let me see. I've got them here. At least I got one. Where did Kyan put the other one? Oh, where is it? Now that I actually want it, I'm thinking of it. Kyan was playing with that one barn. Oh, here it is. Okay. Okay, so this is a model of a Northern European barn farmhouse. Okay.
Mm.
And this is a 3D print off of Thingiverse. Okay. This cost, well, I got it used, but a new model kit like this cost about $50 to $60.
Right.
This cost what, about 10 cents in filament?
Maybe.
Plus the electricity?
Minimal.
Yeah. Plus the investment in the printer.
Right. But
that's
that's like once you make a few prints, like if your printer was $300, you make about 8 prints, you've got your money back.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
again, depending, like my Mingda was about $500. And I haven't got my money back yet, but I've done some nice things with my Mingda.
What was the cars that you were printing, Thomas? You showed us a truck or something.
Yeah,
Yeah. What type of truck was that?
it's a Kenworth.
Okay. Can you put it a bit closer to your camera, because it's very small when you look at the picture. You know,
Yeah. Well, this is one that I downloaded off of was it Thingiverse or something? No, I don't remember. Colts or someplace. And what happened was this file was supposed to be an HO scale truck,
Yeah.
right? But
It's a bit
what
small.
happened was, yeah, it came in about like that big.
Okay.
We had to
Okay.
scale it up about to 3,000% to get it to come out. So
Okay.
this was the first attempt printing it on the rosin printer. So I have a little work to do on it and clean it up a bit, but it's still drying from the print. It just finished printing about an hour ago. Yeah. So because I got these two trailers,
Yeah.
and I didn't have nothing to pull them with, so I said, okay, we'll put that on there like that.
Yeah.
Even that looks a bit small compared to the trailer. That
Trailer,
front
right?
end.
Yeah. Yeah, these trailers are probably oversized, but they're not going to be running around. They'll just be sitting there, so you'll never know the difference. But making the models, the biggest thing is getting it to be the right size.
Yeah.
Or at least close, because very little is true scale. I mean,
Right.
And the worst thing is when you get something that is true scale next to stuff that isn't. Even Miniature Wonderland, a lot of their buildings, they're so realistic, but they will make, in terms of width and depth, they will often reduce the scale to even down to 1 to 115. They'll keep the height about the same so that the windows and doors look right with the figures, but they will condense other areas because otherwise you can't,
you can't make it. Yeah.
They've got St. Paul's Cathedral from Vatican City in their Rome display.
Hey, Joyce.
The real one would be she's doing laundry, people. She's not going to wait. Well, she waved going past, but she's not going to stop and chat. She's stuck up that way.
No, you're right, Anthony. And there are situations where you have to kind of give a little here and there to fit the area you need. So,
well, that's why we have backdrop buildings, right?
Yeah, you do that as well. That's an issue that I just recently solved on my layout. I have, it combines the topics we just talked about. I have been trying to find a 3D, somebody that could 3D print a very special building for the city of Delmenhorst, which is what's modeled on my layout, because I wanted the town hall. And I have tried designing it myself, and it's the water tower segment has so many bizarre, odd angles. I can't do it in Tinkercad. I'm not that. I mean, maybe if I spend a few more months really studying Tinkercad, I might be able to figure it out. And I've offered money for somebody to 3D design it for me. And I had a couple of people say, well, let me look into it. And I say, okay. And I've offered money. I said, you come back, give me a price, and we'll negotiate. And I said, $500 is not out of the question. If you could design it, I would pay you for the work of designing. And I even found a site where a guy did a 3D build of it for an architectural class and posted it online in Germany at his university thing, because he's from Delmenhorst, and he took all the measurements. So he's already got all the measurements and did a 3D design. All I got to do is get it to scale and then convert it to an STL and then to a G code. And I've tried to communicate with the guy. Well, it's been holding up my advancement because I really want that town hall here. So instead, what I finally decided to do just a couple weeks ago is I've got thousands of photographs of it over the years. I'm just going to put it up as basically a false front and false back photograph, stick it on as a scene break right here next to me. And then I can build the rest of the town towards the train station. And just instead of having the actual 3D building, it would be about that thick with 3D photograph on one side and the backside 3D photograph the other way.
Okay.
Because I just can't find a 3D print of it, and it's been holding me up. And then screw it, I'll just do a little back scene version of it and then have the market square and then go on. But even then, it's 3 blocks. Well, more like 3 half blocks, but it is 3 blocks going from the market square to the train station. And if I wanted to do that in reality, I would have to have from Delmenhorst to my neighbor's house. If I was going to do every building to scale, it would stretch from the end of my house to the other side of my neighbor's house to get it to true scale. So you have to make compromises. You have to sell the idea.
Actually, if you think about it and really wanted to make it scale size, you could use the normal timetable for running a train, because it would take scale-wise the same time in reality as it did in real life.
Yeah, but I don't think my neighbor wants me building my layout through his house.
No, but I'm just thinking of, wouldn't it be kind of boring if it took 20 minutes to run, one of your model trains from Delmenhorst to Bremen, on your layout, and that.
Right, 9 to 12 minutes, depending on which.
Yeah.
9 to 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, if I built all the way through my neighbor's house, did a couple of helixes in his house, and then I could bring it back under my driveway, back into my basement here, then I could have the trip take about 9 to 12 minutes. Or I could do what my friend Steve did in his house, where he's got a massive layout in his basement and he lives alone. So then he's got it rising. It goes up the stairs into the first level of his house and goes around that a few times and then comes back. He's got a circuit that takes 17 minutes to run just one loop in his house.
Yeah, but if you're only
17 minutes to do one loop, to do all the loops on that one course, 45 minutes.
Yeah. And if you just run that one train, to simulate then you would sit in your chair seeing the train leaving the room.
You would create the full train experience, sitting on your ass, waiting for the train to come.
Yeah. That would be boring.
And nobody wants that.
No. We want it like when you have your show running, yourself, and have 6 trains running constantly around you, like bees around a honey pot.
Right, because you're not like one of those crazy Danes and Germans that watches My Life and goes, the trains are going too fast, they're coming too soon, they're not stopping at the station, they're not doing all the things that you should be doing on your layout, making the train stop and pick people up and do all this. Or I was like, no. Me just like trains going in circles.
Yeah.
That's why I like it too.
I have gotten used to it.
Hi again, Chris. Hope you're well.
And the thing is with me, I don't care if my trains look prototypical or not. I like fantasy schemes just as much as the prototype stuff. I mean, if it looks cool, I'll run it.
Yeah, I mean, I do have areas where I very much like my regional trains. I want to be prototypical. I want them to look the way I see them when they're in Germany, the right number of cars, but that's my short region. Right. Now my ICE, my one ICE has 8 cars and they run in 8 car sets or 9 car sets. My ICE4, you can see them in 8s, 12s, double 8s, and even double 12s. But I'm never going to have it. Right now, I've got it at 10 cars, and it's too long. It really is too long for my layout at 10 cars. And my freight train only has, about 15 container wagons going, maybe more, which, of course, a real train would never have that many. But, if I made it real life, it would be halfway around my table again. And that's right. It's,
Yeah.
rule one, you do what you want.
Right.
And we all have things we want to be cool about. Now, Monsville here from Australia, they've got 4 layouts, 5 layouts, N scale, O scale, and 200. And they just started running this cool little thing. They did a steampunk. It was just a train that somebody had repainted and not done necessarily a great job on, and they picked it up and they just decided to run it. They have one layout that has the castle in the middle of the town while people are fishing and boating in the river, and they've got orcs from Lord of the Rings attacking the castle in the middle of the town, while the rest of the town is just going on with its modern 21st century life. Now, I watched that stuff, and it's really cool. And I don't know how many of you know Arthur O-Gauge Trains and Toys. Arthur has this stuff set up. He lives alone in an apartment in New York City, or just outside of New York. And he's got toy soldiers, Star Wars castles. He's just got a million different toys scattered around his layout, and he runs 6 Lionel O-Gauge trains at the same time. And it is an eclectic insanity, but it is so fun to watch.
You're right about it's
And
like
Montville is
watching
speaking. Good night, Montville.
the old movie People Will Talk, where they have great train catastrophe where the wife comes upstairs and see the trains running around. That's also an O-Gauge, if you know what I'm talking about. It's an old
I never know
movie
what you're
with
talking about. I
Gary
just
Grant.
nod and say yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
Wait a minute, what is this? Andy, I missed what you were replying to. Why not, Anthony? I like it, and shunting is great fun. Did I say something against shunting? I would never say anything against it. Everybody does their thing. I just like running my trains in a circle. I have ADD, and my trains running in circles is very soothing to me. I don't need them stopping. I don't need them doing anything. And other people do their thing. I will get defensive if people criticize what I do, and just say, hey, this is what makes me happy. I'm not building it for you. I'm building it for me.
Right.
Plus, you might want to check out that video that I did on the West Plains Vol Railroad Club display this past December, and watch the part with the American Flyer layout. I think you'll like it, because he said he had a UFO on his layout. The club just added a scene just like that to their layout this past December, only their UFO. And I was told it's a Menard piece, but it actually has a Jeep underneath of it, and it lifts the Jeep up into the spaceship on that one. So it's a pretty cool little deal.
How many of you that have layouts going plan on or have a joke scene on your layout?
A joke scene?
A joke scene, just something that's meant. If somebody stares off something, it could be a couple having relations in a park on a blanket somewhere, or a couple of penguins playing baseball somewhere, just whatever your joke scene is. For example, I got Santa Claus and 9 reindeer being arrested on the platform on my Delmenhorst layout.
The closest thing I can think of is the club's HO scale layout has a little car dealership on their layout that is named Lemon Shyster Auto Sales.
Yeah, joke names would
exactly.
Jason from the Train Freak, all of his his buildings and his businesses are joke names.
Right.
And
I
that's
thought he named some of them after his kids, though, didn't he?
some of them are, but you know, like
And
there's the
Anthony,
gas. There's the gas
Anthony.
company's got a name.
Yeah.
Well, don't forget too, Anthony. Remember, he did that whole joke module with Rick Bailey, or AKA Rick the Tree,
right
on it. So
he was doing some businesses that he named after guys from Sidetrack Sunday and that, but a lot of, but no, that Rick was doing that. But Jason, most of his places
Are fun names.
are pun names. You know, they're puns and they're wordplay names. You know, sort of like what I do in Big Gulch. But just a sense of, you know, again, you might not think of it as necessarily being a joke, but having a UFO scene on an otherwise normal thing, you know, sticking a Doctor Who TARDIS somewhere on your layout, just, you know, just something that gets people to go, wait, what was that in there? Because like Miniature Wonderland, again, because I've been there so many times, there are thousands of joke scenes. They're everywhere, and some of them are X-rated.
And also on the same layout I was talking about, and on the O scale layout, there's vehicles, not technically joke vehicles, but there's like movie vehicles. You have the General Lee from the Dukes of Hazzard. You have the Back to the Future DeLorean. You have the A-Team van. You have Cruella de Vil's car on there. I mean, you got all these vehicles on here. So the Batmobile, I mean.
Yeah, see, stuff like that. Just because there's a couple of big channels, one an American, one a UK channel, where they say joke scenes and certain action scenes are a no-no on your list. And that's where I get very defensive about that, where they go, that's a no-no. Don't put that kind of stuff on your layout. It ruins the effect, because they're all about the reality. You know, it's got to be super real. And, you know, and it's like, it doesn't have to be. If you want it that way, that's fine. But you don't go on your channel and tell everybody else they have to do it this way. Don't put
your layout, do it like you like it.
You're right.
All that's going to do is just drive people out of the hobby.
We always go back to rule one, but that's what I've said many times, both on my live streams and even here with Artie. It's like, you know, we talk about rivet counters, and there are guys who will badmouth rivet counters, you know, like, oh, rivet counters are so annoying, blah, blah, blah. And I'm watching, I'm like, you're a rivet counter. You yourself are a rivet counter. We could go back and go through all your videos and show where you're saying, this is how you should do it. And if you don't do it this way, it's wrong, and blah, 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 blah. It's like, you know.
But you see, now you talk about joke scenes, and I completely agree with you, Anthony, in that way. But joke scenes are different from country to country, because, for example, in Denmark, we had a very iconic film series that was, of course, Danish, with a certain gang, like you talk about Matt Clark, the railroad detective. We had the opposite with a gang that basically always ended up in jail. And in one of those movies, they were played entirely with the railway company in Denmark. So actually, you can buy railroad stock that is used in that movie as models, you know, so you can more or less recreate the movie in models. And so that must be what you are talking about when you talk about joke scenes, because
it's just something that is not reality. When we call them joke scenes, but it's just something that, here's your layout, and okay, you're trying to do the Kansas countryside. Okay, you're doing a train rolling through Kansas. All right, now, a joke scene might be you decide to do the Kent family ranch with a young Clark Kent becoming Superman. Okay, now that's not funny, haha joke, but it's also not reality, you know. So it can be anything like that. But then further down the road, maybe you have a couple of aliens with a crashed spaceship somewhere, just something that gets people. It could be the names of your restaurants, you know, the Choke and Puke, you know.
Or Kansas might have a tornado.
Yeah.
So you would basically build the yellow brick road, somewhere to the railroad
You could do
crossing?
that. You could have a tornado and Dorothy and maybe the
Yeah.
balloon with the wizard. Just whatever. It could be anything.
And
Yeah.
if you really sit down and think about it, that's what the kids are going to gravitate towards too. It's not just the adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recall once I was at a train show, and one of the joke scenes was that the train came past Uncle Scrooge money bin building. I don't know what it's called in America, but he
It'd be
has the big.
DuckTales here in America, John.
Yeah, but the building itself where Uncle Scrooge has all his monies in,
The
square-
silos. Aren't they in
the silo.
silos?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Uncle Scrooge McDuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything like that. It's just, just a sense of fun, a sense of let's have a little bit. But there are purists out there who tell you don't do it. And every single modeler, people in here are all saying, we all know rule one, it's your railway, do it your way. But it's those people that tell you, they're the ones that chase the kids out. They're the ones that, I know 8 years ago, when I started in the model train hobby, got my first train, and I joined a club about a year and a half after that. And those guys could be really, what's the word I'm looking for? They could be really douchey. They could be really nasty about people like that. Is not how you do it.
Mm.
And, why are you doing that? Or, just not to belabor anybody, but like the first time I got a couple of DC UK trains and I put them on my track down here, I've got these 2 tracks on the floor here where I run my DC 00 trains that I picked up. And the first time I'm running them, I just got 2 trains, and I had 5 guys in my live stream going, "You're running them backwards."
No, you weren't running them backwards. You were running them.
I'd be standing there like so.
They should go on the left side.
Yeah, Jean Ricard, right. Either way, you're running it the wrong way. The key is it was wrong. That train, the train on this loop should be going that way, and the train on the other loop should be going this way. And it's like, they're just going in a circle.
Yeah, but it's like when you run all your trains, you always run them backwards. You always run them with the Steuerwagen at the end, and that's wrong.
No, it isn't, Jean Ricard. Jean Ricard, this argument has been ended for a while. You've already lost the argument. Stop belaboring it. Because Jean Ricard, I bought one that's got a Steuerwagen on both ends, and you'd still say it's going the wrong way.
Yeah, basically the one of them is going the wrong way,
I don't know which side of you is the obnoxious side. Is it the French side or the Danish side?
It's just the side that wants to be obnoxious to you,
So again, is that the French side or the Danish side? Because it could be either.
It's both. It's my entirety,
Bingo. You got the worst from both sides. Gotcha.
Yeah, I just love to banter you with your cars. It's basically like seeing a American train where you have a cab forward. That's also in some way odd to see a cab forward steam locomotive.
Mm-hmm. So now you're having to go at American locomotives, I see. Okay, Jean, you're just out to piss everybody off, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm trying the best I can. But you must admit, that even you prefer to have the chimney in front of it when you see a steam locomotive.
I don't know. I still haven't figured out what's the front side.
It's with the smokestack in front, of course.
Yeah, but what happens when there's a smokestack on both ends, John?
That's very rare. It's only a double Fairleigh that has it.
I've got 3 218s, and the 3 of them don't have their smokestacks in the same places. One has 2 here, one has 1 on each end, and the other one has 1 here and 1 there. Hush.
That's a diesel. I was.
That's one thing.
Is it or is it not a smokestack?
It's an exhaust pipe.
What is a smokestack but an exhaust pipe?
A smokestack is a chimney where there comes smoke out of it.
What is a chimney? An exhaust pipe for a house or a fire?
All the above, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Now, I was going to tell Russ, that's one thing. That's one of the really nice things about the club I'm in. They're a pretty laid back bunch. The only real rules they have is they want to make sure your trains are running in good working order and they're not uncoupling from each other, and that they're not going dead on the layout all the time because they're in the business of keep the guests entertained. We don't care what you run, as long as it runs reliably and it keeps the guests entertained. That's it.
But Randall, I have to ask you a question. When you're running a train like your train there on that we see in the picture,
yeah,
you run it with the cab forward. But
right,
if that train was to go in the opposite direction, would you then turn the locomotive so the cab was pointing forward still?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can actually run this train, these engines either way. You can run them what we call long hood
he's
forward.
asking if you wanted to make it go the other way, would you turn it around?
No.
Okay.
I just put the switch on control and let the whole thing go backwards.
So in other words, no, John Ricard, they go front and backwards that way.
I'll even do it.
But
now I wouldn't want to do this with a long train, mind you.
If you felt like there's a specific front end to it, like this is the front end, this goes first.
Now, like I said, I wouldn't want to do this with a long train. Otherwise,
he's going to have a caboose going first now. He's going to have a caboose going first. Now all hell's going to break loose.
Well, we'll see. It's ran pretty good so far like this, but I actually did it a couple times off camera since I've had this layout up here. But yeah.
Yeah, but what I was talking about was in reality, they would probably be shunting the locomotive in the other end of the train. But
but
would they run it with the long front end, or would they try to get it turned around so they had the cab forward?
Okay, so one train I have worked with that's actually done it like this is the 101 local in Jonesboro, Arkansas. Now that train has a caboose on it, only they don't technically call it a caboose. Now they call it
just a locomotive, Randall. If you were to take all the freight away, would that locomotive in reality ever run in the direction it's running now with the long nose going first?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what
I've seen it. Yep.
Okay.
But
Jean Ricard, we got to get into a different question now since you brought it up a couple of times now. You said in reality. What is reality?
In reality, what I mean by reality is, I mean in real life. Then when
what is real life?
Real life is when you are not inside that engine, but if that was in your scale, and I don't.
John Ricard, my point is we could all be just the figments of a 5-year-old's very crazy dream. And when he wakes up, we disappear.
Don't scare me like that, Anthony. I'm not ready to disappear just yet.
I hope not. I hope not, But in that world that we represent outside this electronic gizmo that we are in, all 4 of us,
But yes, John Ricard, if that engine was by itself with no cards, yes, it is possible for it to run long hood forward. In fact, I was taking a crew to the man helper set, and I guess their readout botched up and said they had only one motor, and it was going to have to run long hood forward back to Springfield. They were not looking forward to that because it was a -9. They are not set up to really run long hood forward comfortably. They can, but it's not something the crews like to do. But fortunately, it didn't turn out that way. They had two motors, one facing each direction. But
Okay. Yeah, because
yeah, they can run these things long hood forward.
I was just thinking that everything in that locomotive indicates that you would prefer to have the cab at the front end, you know.
Yeah. Well, see, nowadays locomotives like this GP40 are set up to where, with the light packaging on, they have ditch lights and headlights front and rear now, so
Yeah,
they can run in either direction
They can look the other way.
that the road puts them in. So
yeah, but when we see it, you know, I'm not accustomed to American trains, but those that we see here in from pictures from America, they usually have 3 or 4 units, and one
right,
of the units is turned around. So that
right.
would be the preferred.
Most of the time it is that way, John. Not all the time, but most of the way it is.
Yeah.
That's so, and usually that's with trains that are never really broken up. That they either have to run around the train, couple onto the other end, take off back to where it came from, so they could reload their train, or things like that. So
Yeah. It's just because in Denmark, you know, we got an EMD from NOHAP, but they were built with now Anthony has his entire family behind him. Yeah.
I am actually surprised we haven't adopted, because don't you guys have locomotives that have cabs at each end?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah. See, I'm surprised we actually haven't adopted that here in the United States, with that, because then you wouldn't have to ever worry about turning the
Hey,
engine
Robin
around.
Taylor's here. Hello, Robin.
Hey, Robin.
Yeah. But I think it might be something with the cost of it, because you have to duplicate everything, you know,
I think that's a lot of it, John. Railroads are, I mean, let's just call it like it is. They're cheap. They don't want to spend any more money than they have to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really no nice way of putting it, but
Yeah, see, he's used to come on, stupid background.
now
It looks the same on either end.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to
now I will say this: back in the early days of Norfolk Southern, and you can even go back to Southern Railway and the N&W. The way their locomotives were set up, the long hood was forward on those engines. They were set up to run long hood forward instead of the short hood forward like most others were.
Yeah. Okay.
And the reason was it had to do with the crews were worried about protection at grade crossings.
Yeah.
And
So
all that, you know,
basically use
safety aspect.
So
who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?
But rather than, you know, do things to beef up safety, they said, well, you're running the train you're running the locomotives long hood forward.
Yeah.
Basically keep them from spending money.
Yeah.
See, Robin says down in Australia, they have the long end leading.
Yeah. And NS engines were not very popular with the crews here, especially the older ones. I hope nobody's eating when I tell this story, but the older
Okay,
NS
put down your
engines,
food.
yeah, the older NS engines, meaning the older Jeeps, the SDs, the SD40s, the old, basically the second generation, maybe even the early third generation engines, um, the pre-wide cab ones, they didn't even have a real toilet in them. Now, I was told that by more than one BNSF engineer that's running. They have a seat with a bucket under, it's got a hole cut in it and a bucket underneath. That's your toilet. Yeah, you can pretty well see where this is going. So
Yeah. But then think of how the facilities would be on a steam locomotive.
say that again, John.
Think of how the facilities would be on a steam locomotive.
Oh yeah.
You
Well, I
basically
mean,
had a
back in those days, you didn't even have a toilet. You had to just bail off the engine, and go out in the woods somewhere. Probably.
Yeah, you had a shovel and a firebox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then on the other hand, we all know from the stories from Big Gulch that they had a what did you call it, the shit car, or
The latrine car.
the
Yeah.
latrine car. That was the word I was looking
Oh,
for.
and the hate mail I got for that. The hate mail I got because my 1890s train had a latrine car.
Oh, but that's,
There was no such thing in the 1890s. This is how they went to the bathroom on trains back then. I'm like, I know, but this is a fictional world. It's a cartoon where horses talk. Okay, you were okay with talking horses. You were okay with talking horses. But the minute we have a train that has its own separate bathroom car, now we've gone too far.
Del Marley, yeah, that would be the same train going backwards, but normally they don't be going backwards that quick. They're probably going about 10 miles an hour in real life. At most.
Anthony,
I think they run the thing up backwards.
Actually, in Denmark,
ironically, they're running better backwards than it is forward. But
yes, Denmark. Yes, Jean Ricard, in Denmark,
we actually had one railway that had a latrine train, an entire train of latrine cars.
That seems to defeat the purpose because you don't have somebody use them.
Oh, but you see that the purpose of the train was that in the old days, when you, even in Copenhagen, had outhouses, or you went down from the buildings into the yard. And
right. We all know what an outhouse is. Yes.
Yeah.
A lavvy.
They collected all the waste in the night, and they brought it out to a train that had like barrel cars.
Right, but then that's not really a latrine train.
It was
waste.
It's a loo locomotive, or
it was a latrine train because it was a train with a locomotive and a bunch of cars that all ferried out the waste from Copenhagen.
Yeah, it was a waste train. The latrine is the toilet and all the other accoutrements, if you have any, other than just a big hole in the floor of the train.
Yeah, but it was known,
which is how they actually did go to the bathroom on trains in the 19th century. They had a hole at the end of certain cars, and if it was a lady, all the other ladies got up and put their skirts around while the lady squatted on the floor.
Oh, but they had a little compartment around that hole, and the worst thing
in some cases, not always in the American West.
Okay, but as the worst thing was the poor railroad track working gang, when the train came by and somebody relieved themselves at the same time, that wasn't the most funny. That gives a whole new meaning to the golden shower and so on, you know.
Yeah, we didn't need to go there.
Now,
Okay.
the other night, I had to take a dog catch crew to the lead of the yard coming into Springfield. They had to wait on a Z train come in. That train had two NS motors. Neither one of them had a heater that worked in it,
Great.
and it was in the single digits.
Indeed. That wouldn't have been a problem with the steam locomotive, but
I talked to the guys who come off of it, and they said they told them it's there. They said, well, that second motor's got the wall here kind of sort of works in it. And they said they went back there and said it wasn't working at all. So they was about froze by the time I got to Springfield.
Well, I'm amazed they did run the train, you know, that they just didn't stop it and say, we won't run it until we get a heat on the train.
Well, they told me, they said that train should have never left Memphis that way.
Okay.
yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. They don't care.
They'll just call some other driver and say he'll take it and you're fired. Yeah.
Well, see that when they brought the train in, the crew I was with got on the train and said they have to basically somebody has to be on the train all the time. So they pulled in the yard. They got off the train. The guys I was with got on the train and sat. The guys that came off the train sat in the van, warmed up, and they were basically sitting to wait till the yard cleared up for them to bring the Z train in so they could yank the NS power on, put something that had functioning heaters in it. So they could take it to Los Angeles, California. Or no, it was San Bernardino, California, not Los Angeles, but because it was a ZSBD or ZATG SBD train.
Yeah, San Bernardino is more in the north, like towards San Francisco, isn't it?
Yeah, we got two locations our trains come from out in California. One's San Bernardino, the other is Los Angeles. So usually
one of those trains.
Yeah, usually the San
there,
Bernardino trains are the ones that go on NS. So.
Even out there, it can be pretty cold.
Not like here.
No.
I had a friend, Mike, that lived out in LA, and he would be turning the heat on in his house and talking about how he was freezing and had to put on sweater and heavy pants and that because the temperature was only 65. I'm like, 65? We're in shorts and t-shirts here in the Midwest.
Yeah.
People in Minnesota are screaming how hot it is. Oh my God, it's 65 today. Oh my God.
Yeah, people probably hitting the beach up there at that kind of weather.
But no, it's been interesting, because that one of the things, going back to the original topic here with the hobby, is that there are people, their passion, trains are their passion. They don't just do model trains, they rail fan, they study, they know the histories, which is all wonderful. I love hearing those people and hearing the stories. Like Randall, you got so many great stories. Yeah. And you will talk about trains and models, and this is a compliment, but you have so much detail and knowledge of these things. A lot of it just sounds Greek to me. I hear, yes, we were taking this engine, a blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I have no idea what that is. But as you know, I'll text you and say, okay, what is this? And you'll send me a picture and I'll go, okay, got it. But, like anything we're passionate about, we can be jerks about it. We can be jerks. There's a level of jerks. You'll see every channel, oh, this is the greatest hobby in the world. This is the greatest hobby in the world. Well, it is a great hobby for those of us that enjoy it. But we also could do a better job of making it a fun hobby, not the present, because, you know, most of us here, I think, try one way or the other to have it. But again, it's these people that just, everything has to be to a certain level of perfection. Everything has to be, and I have things where I'm that way, but I never hold anybody to the standard I hold myself. Okay, I sit here and I may clown around or act a fool, but if I'm out where I was public speaking or working in the public sector, I put on a totally different thing, and I will speak a certain way. I will talk, and in my brain, I'm my own. We use the term grammar Nazi, but I never correct other people, and I never look at other people and say, "You say that wrong." I hold myself to a certain standard, and I don't hold anybody else to that standard. I just, those people should be who they are, and I'm that way with trains. I do get a lot of suggestions on, oh, you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And sometimes I'll nod my head and say, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. Someday, maybe. And other times I'll say, nah, I'm going to do it this way. And that's how it is. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch what I do. You know, it's, nobody forces you to watch anything on YouTube. Nobody forces, except for the commercials. And you know, it's a hobby that, if we want it to grow, we just got to show that it can be fun. Add a little fun. Don't be so serious. Don't be so anal, uptight about everything. Have a laugh, have fun, and just, you know, show the fun. Enjoy the fun. Have the fun with it. When we start taking ourselves too seriously, then I think we can lose people. We can chase people out.
A lot of people, I think, treat this hobby like a second job. I feel like, and that's when it kind of stops being fun. When you start, to me, and this is just me, you know, if you start treating this hobby like it's a job, then it loses the fun factor. So,
yeah, actually, Andy T, this is my new layout. This is my biggest end chaser layout ever. 15,000 different lanes all running in a circle. Trains from every era and trains of every style from every country. And they just have their own little loop and they run.
But they all run backwards.
See, you get the haters. No matter what you do, you get the hater.
And they don't stop.
And the only problem is, out here in space, everything is 3-rail.
I'll tell this great story.
If you want 2-rail, you have to go all the way out to Neptune. In this part of the galaxy, it's all 3-rail. Sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to tell this quick story. This is a video I saw here a while back, and I probably need to find that video and put a link to it. But for those of you that know me already, most of you know I like anime as well as the train stuff. Well, there was this anime called Galaxy Railways, and some people probably look at it as kind of corny because it's basically trains that travel throughout space. Okay. And it's not just any trains. You literally have a parody of the Big Boy that travels throughout space. Only it's called the Big One in the show. So this video I saw, someone had built an O-scale version of that engine. Not only that, he also built the gun car that goes with it. Because in the show, the train is armed. It has these laser cannons, and when it goes into battle mode, all these guns stick out and it's ready to go.
Freaking laser.
Show everybody some muscle. And he actually built the gun car that goes with it. That was just the coolest thing I ever saw. So I need to find that channel again and see if he's finished it. Because when I saw the video, he was in the process of building it.
Yeah.
That engine is wanting to derail all the time.
Now, if you really want to have a laugh, You should see the trains that are running through Uranus.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
we could go a long way with that one.
We could go a long way with that one long way line.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the thing is, a guy was posting, and wow, we've been going for 2 hours and 10 minutes. I didn't think we'd last. People said it would never last. They thought it would be like a Hollywood marriage. But you know, go back to get kids in the hobby. Oh, we got to do these things again. You know, the thing is, kids more than anybody go into fads. You know, and people talk about, like, I don't know. Again, if you're of a certain age, especially in America, do you remember in the late 70s? I mean, that's when the model train hobby started. The long, slow death everybody's saying it's having. But the world had changed, and the model train world tried to keep up with it. Remember, we had space trains because Star Wars was big. Everything was sci-fi. So all of a sudden we had sci-fi trains. We had trains. I remember, again, Tycho came up with a train that could do a 90-degree vertical
Right.
up the wall and come back down. And that was cool. But what killed it? Well, the kids weren't buying it because it was still a model train. Although you think it'd be cool, you know, space train and Star Wars figures and all that and so on. You know, they tried to do that, and the train still didn't sell. But part of it was because the purists were like, "How dare you do something that stupid?" You know?
Well, and two, I think what killed it as well, Anthony, Tycho's quality had really went into the toilet by this point. And, you know, even if we go back to
Right back
what
to
we talked about
toilet,
Lifelike earlier, the quality of both of those companies were not good. Those trains were not very reliable, unfortunately.
No, I mean, that all toy quality went down at that point.
Yeah, it did. I mean, it went down across the board, but it seemed like the trains really suffered the brunt of it at that time.
But well, and again, some of that is because you're trying to create something new and different, and you're rushing
Right.
it to the market. You know,
And you're also cutting corners to make it
this
cheap.
fad's going to end.
Right.
But you know, why not? Why not have some sort of space train that would tie in? Star Wars has been a almost 50-year, 46-year phenomena going on, and the toy product in Star Wars still sells. And so why not have some sort of a train tie in and have a Star Wars based train set or something like that, and see if that might pull a couple of kids in, you know?
I do think that sometimes it's when you try to take something that is familiar and take it so much out of the context where it's familiar,
Right.
that it's different, because you will always find somebody that will find it fascinating, but the great majority of kids, they basically mimic what they see, you know, in, excuse me again for using the term, in real life. Like you described at a certain time that your grandson, which is 3 years old now, was one day sitting playing with his toys, and his mom saw that he was mimicking something about doing his toy shows as it was a camera taking, because
Yeah.
he had seen his grandfather doing that on YouTube like you are doing.
Yes,
And
that was
that's
funny. Kyan had his toys doing a YouTube live stream.
Yeah, and that was because that's what he had experienced. If you ran around basically in a spacesuit every day and pretended you could walk on the ceiling and so
Right.
on, I'm sure that he would try to do the same thing, even though he might
Yeah,
get
I mean, kids are going to
trouble.
mimic. But again, in
Yeah.
America, for example, you know, in Europe, kids grow up with trains as a part of daily life. They travel by train, they take trains to school, it's a part of life, and it's more in there. In America, it's probably a little harder because, yes, there are many of our viewers and people that work in trains or are connected to somebody who works in trains, but our average kids don't have it. And that's not even before we talk about like room, you know. A lot of kids don't have a lot of space. It's easier to play on a video game where everything's on your flat screen TV than actually setting up and building it. So it has to be modeled for them. They need a grandfather, an uncle, a dad who shows them you can do this and have fun with this. Again, if your dad, like I said, with my dad, he taught me to do a lot of things, but it was so miserable learning from him. I didn't discover till I was much older that working on a car could be fun. You know, I'm going to take this out, put this in, that can be fun. Building part of a house, there might be a fun element to it. Yes, it's a lot of hard work and be annoying, but there's a fun element to it. Joyce and I, for whatever reason, we work really well together when we're destroying and rebuilding parts of our house.
Yeah.
But the biggest part Joyce and I have where we get fraught with each other is deciding finishing touches. I like this rug. I hate that. I wouldn't even let a cat puke on it, you know. But
sense of accomplishment.
What I'm thinking of is also when you try to get the kids to do play things, you know, they would, girls would much rather play dress up or putting up makeup because they see the ideals of, they don't play with pink trains, even though I know that some of the American brands had tried to make pink trains.
They tried to make things appeal to girls, but the thing is, if a girl is going to be into trains, she's not thinking it has to be pink. She's going to be into trains.
Yeah.
You don't need to make boy trains and girl trains. You make trains and you somehow make it appeal to kids. Like Maryland does DC action figure trains where they release HO scale superheroes and then box cars that have the superhero logo, and those sell very well, and to boys and to girls. And you can do that. Like right now, one of the big things my son watches, or my grandson, is Bluey and Paw Patrol. And I guarantee you, he already loves trains. If you had a Paw Patrol train, he'd be screaming until he got one because he's already into trains and he loves Paw Patrol. Could you get a few other kids into that? Quite possibly.
I'd say you could.
Paw Patrol features trains in their show at times. There are trains. There's the train driver and that. So it would be a connection.
Yeah, but what about the you know, you talked about space trains. You know, you have, for kids, you have the TV show Chuckington, for example, where they run a lot of different trains there.
Yeah.
And some of them can fly, and some of them are superheroes.
And the only thing I'll say about that, it introduces
let me see if I can find that.
But most of the times they make toys for that. It's not trains on track, you know, and kind of bring them into the hobby where you're actually running train. That's why Maryland's kind of cool because they have the different levels. You know, okay, we'll start kids with this. Kyan plays with the My World stuff that he can beat up and crash. And then when he hopefully grows out of that phase, he moves up to a startup kit, which is a little cheap, which is still cheaper than your standards, and moves that. But he also, even while he plays with those toys down there, he has Opa's trains down here that we run. And that he knows how to operate and turn things on and off and things like that. But again, it's it's more than just have it where it's a toy. Oh, look, here's a toy train. Because he's got toy trains and all different. If you're going to get them into the hobby, you can't just have them love trains. You've got to kind of bring them into the concept of track and trains and running them. But make those connections that might draw a few kids that maybe aren't into trains for whatever reason. I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to have a train. And, oh, look, I can build a playset and I can create this world. You know, Kyan, I can't get out the My World stuff and set up some track and run his battery operated train on those tracks. And by the way, for those who don't know, Miracle in My World, their track is all plastic. There's no electricity, but it's identical to the C track. So when the kids progress, the track's not even any different. It still connects the same way. It still goes the same way. It looks the same. But anyhow, I have to get out the Legos and build tunnels.
Yeah.
I have to, Opa, make tunnels. All right, what kind of tunnels do you want? Big tunnels. Okay, so now we're going to have trains. And then he's going to get out his Paw Patrol figures and have them standing on top of the tunnels. Or he tries to get them to stand on the trains while it's going around. So he's integrating all his toys into that. And the model train just becomes part of that world. And that's just, I don't know if that's really saying anything, but it works with him.
So Anthony, the link I just put in the chat there for because some people's asking about that Galaxy Railways. That's the link to the English dub English dub playlist of Galaxy Railways. So
Gotcha.
For anybody that wants to check that out, that's it right there. So
yeah, and the thing is, Robin brought this back up, talking about the Hornby steampunk. Yeah, they tried to jump into that. And I don't think there was anything wrong. I think it was a good idea. It didn't sell well because Hornby created it and then never promoted it. And the steampunk hobby, although it's still alive and fairly strong, but the general public's fixation with steampunk died out rather quickly. But Hornby put it out there and didn't promote it and didn't create a world that would draw these people into it. You had a guy win major awards building a steampunk funky layout that he originally started building on that British show, the Great American Model Railway Train Show, whatever it was called. But then he took it on the road and kept building on it. And, you know, there were steampunk people that thought that's cool because trains are a huge part of steampunk, because steampunk is a Victorian age world with both modern tech and old tech kind of blended in. And there was a market there, but you can't just throw something out there and hope it swims. If you don't take it out there and keep it afloat until it learns to swim on its own, it's going to drown if this analogy doesn't go too far out of the way. You can't just throw it out there and, well, let's see if it catches on. No, you've got to make it catch on. You've got to have tie-ins. You've got to market things better than just throwing it out there and hope it works. Some things you can do that with, like for years, Hogwarts, right?
Right.
British trains sold off the wazoo. Maryland even made Hogwarts. Even American companies had some Hogwarts trains. Hogwarts is huge, and they had a train in the movie. Everybody was into Harry Potter. And now the Hogwarts
Here's another one. Here's another one, Polar Express.
Yeah, Polar Express had a huge mark-in that you could do. But you've got to market it and expand it. You know, Star Wars, I think half the shows now with Star Wars are just so they can market new toys.
Yeah.
We've created these toys, make some shows that we can throw these in.
I mean, you could even go further than that. You know, Lionel had a Hot Wheels set. They had a NASCAR set. They had a Scooby-Doo train set. I mean, we could just go on and on forever.
Yeah, you know, NASCAR's huge. You stick NASCAR on them, there's a whole group of people that'll buy NASCAR.
I mean, I've got a Dale Earnhardt train set. So
look at me. I'm a Beetle fan. They stick Beetles on a train and I buy it.
Yeah, and who can understand that?
Shut up, you Dane.
Beatles has nothing to do with trains.
Wrong. In the movie Hard Day's Night, half the movie is spent on a train. Now shut up, you Dane. You don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
we won't talk about how the Beatles rode the Frisco Sunnyland that one year that my mom told me about.
And they rode trains on their first American concert tour.
Okay.
So,
was it also their last American concert tour?
You're just bitter because they never came to Denmark.
They were here once.
Yeah, once, and then they never came back.
No, because the market isn't
that. It's because they realized all you Danes are crazy.
If there ever is one prototype train that I would build, and this is all contingent on whether I can paint the engines and find the right cars, it would be to build the train that my mom told me about that the Beatles rode on, which again, as I said, was the Sunnyland.
Okay.
but I would have to know what the makeup of that train was at that time. So,
Hey, if you really want to be sexist and wrong, just make a bikini train where each car has a different
oh my,
sexy bikini. So make that for part of the gay crowd and the heterosexual man crowd. And then if you want to, put some beefcake train cars out there. Honey, we've got to get
now
that train.
we could go for some serious anime
Wait till I
hentai
reveal.
stuff. You know,
Wait till I
really impressive
reveal
people.
the Black Mamba. Wait till I reveal my Black Mamba train.
Oh,
Which
this is
Actually,
going to be something else.
you are way behind. You're way behind because, like the beer cars,
yeah.
you can actually get cars with bikinis on it as well, at least in Denmark.
Yeah, but you need the woman. See, in Denmark, you just stuck the bikini on the car. You forgot to put the woman in the bikini.
Oh.
Oh wait, no. See, this is Denmark. I'm surprised you had her in a bikini.
Yeah.
In Denmark, you just have the nude woman in a red light shining down off the car down on her.
Hey, Happy Valley.
Hey, Happy Valley. Actually, I gotta start wrapping this up.
Why?
Because I have a wife that is going, why aren't you off yet?
You have only been
Why aren't
on
you helping me with laundry?
5 minutes.
Yeah, we haven't had an Artie sighting, have we?
No, Artie said he would try to get on, but he wasn't sure. Artie is in LA, but I don't know how much I can specifically say, but I'll say he's had some problems already.
Okay.
I actually messaged
He
Artie
had
on
some,
Facebook.
I don't know specifically what happened, but he mentioned something about he was trying to get to his hotel, but something was going on that prevented him from getting in the hotel. And then his baggage was listed as oversized or overweight, and he had to pay $125 in cash or whatever, which he did not have on him. So I paid for him.
But they haven't deported him yet.
As far as I know, but things could have changed.
Oh my God.
But yes, Artie was having problems at LA airport, but he was going to try to get into his hotel and pop on, but he may have gotten to his hotel.
First time he ever flew?
Oh, no. He's been to America a few times, and he.
Yeah, well, you think he'd be a seasoned flyer and be prepared for these things?
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, but
because the weight restrictions pretty much are usually the same. It's 50 pounds, 23 kilos. See, Jean Ricard, it is 4 a.m. It's 4:30 in the morning where you are.
Yeah, it's crazy,
Yeah,
and
you didn't need to say
all
that.
your fault because you get on at this unchristly hour. You could just have started the stream as you used to.
This is Artie's show. Artie's show goes on at Artie's time.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And you are the same one who turned around. I do believe there was a phone call from a person who shall remain nameless, but his name rhymes with Sean Picard. And he called me to talk about many things early this week. And one of the conversations was, Anthony, I really loved your live stream on Saturday. You should do your live streams on Saturday instead of Friday. Or you should even do Friday and Saturday and maybe a couple of more times a week.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, Jean, once a week is enough for me. You're like, no. It would be better if you did more times.
Yeah. You could do it around the clock so that you would
What?
You can always watch the replay at your leisure.
I'll tell you what, John. I could start doing live streams like on Saturdays when I'm not working, and have Anthony and Peyton on there, and Luke from Mr. Rail Yard on there, and then we'd have 4 times of madness on there for you.
Yeah,
Jean, we're just gonna move you right here, okay? We're just gonna plant you right there, the first Dane in space, and we're just gonna pop you right there on one of these moons.
We'll even have the Todd Stevens Brownings ready too.
I wouldn't even be one of the first Danes in space. Right now we have the first Danish astronaut Andreas Mogensen. He's on the space station right now.
There you go. All right. See, you missed your chance. So you'll be the second
Yeah.
Dane in space.
That Peyton
Yeah.
says we don't need any recordings.
So, but
yeah,
you're
so
right.
whatever happened, I was hoping Artie would come in because it's been me having to babble for 2.5 hours, which I can do
Yeah.
easily, but
I actually messaged Artie earlier on Facebook because I was, like I said, fully expecting to be home by now, and the railroad decided to have other plans. So I'm going to either have to mail that engine he'll either have to wait another month for me to mail the engine, or I'm going to have to mail it from here in
nice
Springfield,
play.
which means I would
Nice
have to go
play,
down to.
Andy T. One step beyond. Do, 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 do. Andy T understands that. The rest of you don't have to.
Okay.
We need that cool background where one of us can be like Max Headroom.
I think one day we should all agree on, when Anthony puts on a show like this, that we should all have a floor layout like yours, Randall, and just run a train around all of the rest of us, and then speak in over it.
Put your money where your mouth is, Jean Ricard.
I figured I would try to be the
Look,
at least the one guy that
I put my lanes around the second biggest planet in the galaxy, and you're just sitting in a chair telling everybody else what they should be doing. Put your money where your mouth is.
Okay, I'll try.
I heard a try. I do or do not. There is no try.
Okay, I do not. Then I sit in my chair and pretend. Yeah.
See, there's the French side coming out in you. The Danish side all aggressive, and the French side surrenders.
Yeah, of course. I always surrender to you, Anthony.
That's getting real stinky, Jean, and we shouldn't be talking about that here in public.
I'm still bashing. Well, it's as you said, 4:30 in the morning. I might just consider going to bed now, because after all, it's.
You might just consider going to bed now. You might consider it.
Hey, John.
So what you're doing is you're considering whether you should consider it or not.
John, Dylan at Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything did a 24-hour stream earlier today, so I think you can hang in there. I have full confidence.
We tried that once with Artie.
Hey, this guy drives buses in Denmark. He needs to be alert.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, but that's in about 24 hours before I have to go to work again. So
you might want to get a little sleep in.
Yeah.
Bus driver, wake up! Bus driver, wake up! Why are you sleeping on the job? I stayed up and watched YouTube video. Leave me alone.
I see it in the vans. That doesn't happen. They just slap me upside the head and tell me to wake up. So.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a joke, by the way. They don't really
John, I'm going to redo a joke. That's going to be your headline, John. Bus driver dies quietly in his sleep. Not kicking and screaming.
I don't know why. I just had a My Summer Car thought of that.
Bus driver dies quietly in his sleep, unlike the 23 passengers kicking and screaming all the way.
Make it where it's like My Summer Car, the paper just shows up on the screen.
Don't say it like that, Anthony. Don't say it like that.
Well, don't make it come true. Go to bed. I'm worried. I don't care about you. I'm worried about the people that are your passengers.
Good night.
Those little old ladies don't need to be screaming.
Good night, John. Have a good one. Take care.
Night. I'm leaving. Hi.
Good night, Sean.
Take it easy, John.
Oh.
Well,
Well, and on that note, now that I've chased the Dane away, I can go to bed.
Yeah.
Well, we've actually kept Artie's show going longer than Artie has lately. And part of it was to see if Artie would pop on. So, Artie, if you're watching on replay or whatever else, you need to come in so these things can end at a decent time.
It was fun, Anthony.
And if you're not watching on replay, you owe me
maybe
money.
he's on a flight back to Australia.
No, you can't see. You can't see that. That's Saturn. That's not Uranus, Scott, which you can never see. That's, well, I don't know. I suppose if you bent over and got a mirror.
Oh,
That's Saturn.
How many moons around Saturn again? Was it 12
Oh my God, Saturn is up to like 60 some moons.
now? Okay.
Yeah, 60 shepherd moons. They're now called.
I knew they had a lot, but I couldn't remember what the number was.
But yes, we all hope Artie's okay because he owes me money now. I had to bail him out. He's not even in America for 4 hours and he gets in trouble and needs money.
Right.
I tell you. So anyhow, on that note, I am going to cut this all out. I hope you all, several of you have stayed here for a couple of hours, so you must really have sad lives. No, but no. So yes, on behalf of me and Uranus, or Saturn, or whatever else, we're gonna say good night, everybody. Take care. Auf Wiedersehen, tschüss, and happy trains. Artie, take care. Hope you're well. We'll talk to you tomorrow sometime. Good night, everybody. Tom, thanks for being up. Randall, thank you for being up.
Anthony, we'll talk to you later.
All right.
see you guys.
Bye-bye, Rand.
Yep, see you guys.
Take care. Good night.
Yep, see you.